Maybe it's hilf. This will lift us up. All right, top of page, tzaddik. Vehu, and that is that which we explained until now, at the end of the previous page, that while in Sechel, while in Moich, there is this hergish, and behind the hergish is a spoiler sichli, and we discussed yesterday briefly to understand where does this spoiler sichli come in, how does Sechel become this spoiler. It's a very important principle that we understand, particularly in our day and age and in our world. Sechel is, yes, very objective, but it's not dead. Sechel is not something that you find out by hitting against it. You know it because you know the truth, because you're alive, because the whole world is alive as far as you're concerned. The whole world is a godly creation, and everything in it is supported by this life that God gives it. That's Sechel. As a result of that, there's the name of hispylus, that which in Sechel itself it presents itself as something phenomenal. Thank you for correcting the spelling. Who was it?
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Doesn't matter. You're learning English at the same time.
That was a hard one, yeah.
Because the whole Inyan the Sechel is delving into, to begin with, is because it sees the greatness of what's going on. Sechel is not being hit over the head. It comes from the life force of the neshama, of the nefesh itself.
What's the stress here? It's not being hit over the head. It's not a result of some effect. It has its own life. Yeah?
Right. This is evolutionary process. Is so blinding that we lose sight that this is a living world. Sechel is based on neshama, on ratzon. Why does he have a ratzon? Because it's so real, it's so great. That's why he has a ratzon. As a matter of fact, the ratzon is something itself that is given to him by the giver of life. This is not something that he acquires by experimentation. Therefore, there is an infinite spoiler sichli. And this is spoiler sichli is an element of midos. It is not moichim, so to speak. It is not seichel per se, although it is contained within the seichel. Seichel per se is dedicated completely to what I know, what is shown to me. But the hispylus, this is my personal take on it. How do I get a personal take on it? Because I'm also for real. I'm also alive. I have ratzon. Vahu, and this is, as I said in the previous page, that this is an element of midos. hispylus ha'olu b'techo ilu, where the olu has an element is included in the ilu. It's included in the ilu. It's not possible that you have the ilu without this olu, even though the ilu is much superior to the olu. But it's inevitable that in this ilu there will be an element of the soul. Because of the truth of the ilu itself. This I didn't say before. You understand? This is a very important point. Shu b'dakos adayin. But at this point, the olu is b'dakos. It's very subtle. It does not act on its own. It does not draw a towards person to any kind of action. It's not compelling in itself. Nonetheless, in the background of it, of the ilu, there is a sense that there is something real functioning there. Not functioning present, affecting. And afterwards, Neilad ha'olu b'his galus, then the Neilad is born. The olu is born. And it's called born. Just like at birth. Just like at birth. When a baby is born, the moment before birth, you don't see the baby. It's there somehow, pedakos. He's making himself known, but you don't know. You know only because you sense what's going on. But in itself, it's not an entity unto himself. It's part of the mother. And then Neilad ha'olu b'his galus. Then the olu is born. At birth, it's a new creation. It's not really a new creation because the creation was there, but it was there in a very subtle manner. Now it becomes an entity unto itself. B'his galus, in full regality, full revelation, b'mitzius murgashes, and here it is a mitzius murgashes. Not only do you know about this olu, but it only becomes a mitzius, a present murgashes that you can take, that you can touch. The mitzius of it you can touch. Not its effect, but the mitzius itself. Do you understand the difference? Up until now there was also a hergish, but it was a hergish of the effect of the midas. Now there's a mitzius of midas. To the extent that the midas become compelling, they draw you to a certain action. Mitzius Morgeshes. And Mitzius that is Morgesh. Not only the element of the element, the inner of the midah, but the presence of the midah is actually identifiable. The Sechel or Midas hey mehusim midore biatzim. Where Sechel and Midas are two separate mahusim. Mahus means mahu, a presence. Two separate presences. Be'etzim in essence. Although one comes from the other, but they're in essence two separate entities. Rag. Except Shnei Mahusim Ruchnim, that they are both Mahusim Ruchnim, spiritual presences, Uklurim Zebozeh, and they're included one within the other. Because the Mahusim Ruchnim, they don't take up room, they don't displace one another. So they can both be in together. But in essence, they're two Mahusim in Hivdorim. Two separate realities. What the Chulurim Zebozeh, and they're included one in the other. V'neilodim, and they are born, u'mishtalshelim, and they develop zeh mizeh, one from the other. Mishtalshin zemizeh. Just like a baby that is in the mother's womb. It's a separate entity, but it's not a separate entity. It lives of the mother, but it's a separate life. Who provides the life and the support element for this baby? It's the mother. The baby doesn't even know to ask for it. The baby in the womb will not cry, hey, Mommy, you didn't give me enough food. This is not a play on word, because unfortunately there were times when mothers didn't have what to eat, and they couldn't really support the fetus properly. They used to drink water. He said, do anything to keep it functional. The Neilodim, they are born, and he said more than that they're born, they're ultimately brought out one by the other. They're actually changing out, they develop one from the other. This is the phenomenal thing. Sechel is the root, the source for midas, even though it is a completely different entity, reality. But Sechel inherently had an element that is a midas type. This hispylus and so forth. Okay, we continue weiter. 3 lines from the top on page Tzadik. Towards the middle of the, after the middle of the, and being that the Olu is a different mahus, a different reality, quite a distinct and a different nature of mehoyila from the Ilu. Mimela, that's it is understood. The fact that the Ilu includes internally the Olul, harei zerag b'bchinas hachitzenius v'ha'ispashtus sholei levad. This inclusion is only in the chitzenius of the Ilu and the hispashtus of the Ilu. Chitzenius means external. Hispashtus means its effect. Not itself, but the effect of its presence. Especially how it spreads out, how it affects its environment. So, again, it's very subtle, but we can understand. While the Ilu is involved in internals of the Ilu, internals of the Sechel, there is no Olu. It's completely involved in the Sechel. But the minute that the Ilu begins to think in terms of ramifications, what is this all about? Which is inherent in the Ilu, because the Ilu is also rooted in, has the Ilu also has the.
Maybe it's this phone.
This phone?
I don't know.
The Ilu also has the ratzon as in the back of it. Therefore, it's inevitable that that internally they're connected. It's what it is in itself. But when you begin, but then inevitably it will also think in a broader perspective. What is this about? Chitzenis v'hispashtus. At this point, there's the Reb Shlomo, you're a troublemaker.
He's back on, huh?
He smiles. So the Ilo is, the Olul is included in the Ilo, but not in the central essence of the Ilo. The hispashos, how the Ilo expresses itself. And this expression is really an inevitable reality coming from the Ilo. He will ultimately say, what is this about? And in that, what this is about is included the way in the Ilo. Now we're going into parentheses over here. The similar process and similar relationship between Sechel and Midos is also in Chochma and Bina. The Bina who is nivda min ha-Chochma. Interesting. Where Bina is a mahus nivdal, is a separate and quite different mahus reality of Chochma. Chochma and Bina, this is mamish intricately connected, interrelated, and yet they are mahus nivdal, a separate reality. Umishtalshel, and it develops. Mehispashos ha-Chochma. It develops not from the essence of Chochma, but from hispashos ha-Chochma, from the effect, from the ramifications of Chochma. This is where Bina Israel comes out. When we finish this line, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. As it says in the Ida Zuta, Hai Chochmo. This Chochmo is pashit, spreads forth, opens up. V'apik minei Bina, and Bina comes forth from it. What is this pashit? What is this pashtus of Chochmo? As we said many times, Chochmo, the moshel from Chochmo that we can clearly relate to is sight. The initial element of sight is totally without our effort. Effortless. It's so important to understand. It's effortless, and yet it is totally undeniable. This is the reality. Sight this is the reality. The reason we see it is because it's real. Not because we looked for it and because you understand what it is. No, it's inevitable that we see it because it's all over. It's a reality. It encompasses our whole reality. That's sight. But then, because that this Chochma, high Chochma, this Chochma it has in the background there's ratzon. In other words, it also tries to make sense of what it sees. It wants to relate to it. This is the hispashos of Chochma. What's the message? What do I see? What do I see is really not Chochma per se. Chochma doesn't care. I see it. What's the question? What do I see? Why do I have to question? Why do I see? I see. Nonetheless, there is an element in Chochma, the hispashos of Chochma, where there is, what is it that I see? And when Chochma is hispashos, apik minei Bina. Bina comes forth from it. He no longer is totally imbued, totally embraced by the reality of it itself. But what does it mean?
What does it mean? You'd think that Chochma would look above to ratzon or taina or something.
Yeah, but that's what it's drawing it from. Ratzon is not going to go. It's going to know that ratzon and taina will tell it for sure. There is something about it. It doesn't going to go back in there.
So this why am I seeing is based above. So what is this? Why do I see? What am I looking at?
He's not asking. No. He's not asking. Why do I see? What is it? What is it? What's the significance of this?
So when you think of significance, that's bina. It would seemingly go to the other side. Above it, significance seems to rest above.
The principle that there is significance to it is due to the fact that there is the source, the ratzon and oimek.
Oh, to articulate that
To articulate comes on the lower down. Oimek and ratzon is not going to articulate. Have it. Yispashit v'nofik minei bina. ויפיק מיני בינה, וכמו שכוסי במוקים אחר. Now the Rebbe puts in another, so to speak, qualifier. Elsewhere it's explained, and in the footnote it says that this is in the Hemshech Ha'eter, which we learned, Baruch Hashem, but I don't know if this strikes us as we learned it. The Hamidah shebemoichin, that the midas that are in the moichin, hein kimehus moichin adayin. The midas that are in the moichin are kimehus moichin, are like the reality of moichin itself. Yet adai, still. What does it mean? But it's moichin and midas. Which one is it? V'hainu. It still has the reality of moichin. V'hainu, which means to say, the hispylus sichli, that a Sechel type of hispylus, lihayois, being that shizehu ha-hispylus al ha'tov v'ha'dover atzma, being that this is a hispylus that is focused and is and identifies of the tov ha'dover, the goodness of the thing itself, not its effect. Therefore, in a broader sense, it is still included in moichin, because the goodness of the thing is it has no ramifications in a practical, in an external world. Okay, it's good. It doesn't speak about ramifications. Therefore, it is a mahus moichin. What is mahus moichin? For this we can see. Mahus moichin is moichin. The principle of moichin is bittul. There is not me. There is that which makes me. I'm going to put it very, very, so to speak, sharply. From a moichin perspective, the experience of sight, I see. No. I see because I'm compelled, I'm told, see. Look at this. I don't see it because I have discovered it. I see it because the reality tells me, look at this. Here is the world in which I put you. I didn't get myself there. I was put there. That's chok.
So you just said the reality tells me to look?
Yeah.
To see.
What is the reality? How do you define it?
The fact that it made me alive and it brought me into this world, it means it wants me to be in this world. This is the phenomenal error of the secular approach, where I'm going to develop a knowledge of where the world comes from. You're bound to err. You're bound to go into false reality. You begin from the point where you're showing the world. Here's where you start. I've made the world for you. This is where you start. You're going to go to where the world starts from, it's going to mislead you completely, become a monkey.
What's that red line right there? That red line is, do you accept that you're inside a reality, or do you try to deconstruct that reality?
That's right. That's right. Where does this reality come from? I have to understand. I can't accept it as a fait accompli. Imagine you enter this room, and you see you're walking on the floor. How can I walk on this floor? I don't know what's supporting it. What are the beams that hold up this floor? How strong is the base, the ground base that supports it? This is crazy.
On the other hand, we seem to, I mean, we find ourselves in galus, but we always say that's not the real reality. I don't accept this reality. I foresee a better situation. So we do kind of
one second. I foresee a better situation not because I foresee a better situation. I recognize that this reality has a superior purpose. This is not who I am. This is not who I am. I see in this reality that there is real life here. How do I come to goals?
That's more real life. So it's more constructive than sort of deconstructive.
That's right.
Where the beams, what's holding us up.
That's right. No, that's right. It's not looking at its vulnerability. On the contrary, on what I see. This is the phenomenal difference between our view and this secular stupid view.
But this question of where do I come from, what's my lineage, what did my grandparents do, that seems fine. But to ask what's the basis of reality per se, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yes. My lineage, my parents, only happen to explain what I am.
As opposed to what I am, as opposed to taking apart what's the basis of this.
What's the basis? What justifies it? That's not the point. I'm a Yid. How did I become a Yid? Somebody wrote to me, I think I did. Somebody wrote to me. Religion. When did I sign up?
When did I sign up? When did I join this army?
When did I sign up? This is how totally irrational people one's mind can become a otherwise smart mind. It becomes, and it can present, so to speak, a rationale that is totally contrary to wisdom. It's like a person saying, when did I sign up to be alive? So, he says that elsewhere it's explained that the midos and the hispylus Sechel, because it's a hispylus an latoi v'adobaras, because it's a hispylus not on the ramifications of the thing, but on the essential goodness of the thing. Therefore, it is still included in the general property realm of Menachem. And then the Hilodat Amidas Shebelev, the giving birth of the Midas, the birth of the Midas, as they are in the heart. And in the heart, it's a completely different inference of the midah. Not the goodness. The earth does not have that quality of being spoiled with the goodness. But it's spoiled on a personal basis. It's good for me. Therefore, the Lodas HaMidas Shebelev, the birth of the midas in the heart, Hu Shenimshach HaOra Me'ameichin. This is where a ha'ora of the meichin is drawn, li is a Lodas HaMidas, that there be the birth of midas. According to this presentation as presented elsewhere, that the hispylus HaMeichin is hispylus HaMeichin is still inyan from meichin, not inyan from midas. It's not like midas are included in the meichin. Therefore, according to this, so then when it comes into a lot of time midas, the birth of midas in the heart is only a reflection, is a ha'ora of meichin. It is not something that was included in meichin that comes out, but actually it's a ha'ora of meichin, because the midas of meichin are meichin. The fact that it gets born and becomes an entity unto itself, this is a ha'ora of meichin, which we still have to discuss the whole meaning for. This is the other method of Ilaviyol. Okay, so I'm repeating the last few words on the bottom line. Be'eifon hazeh, in this manner of interpreting, of defining midas shebemeichin, hispylus shebemeichin, that what? That this is really meichin in fact, since that the hispylus is al tov hadover, not of any ramifications of its goodness, the goodness itself. And this manner of looking, yesh leima there, it can be said, that he, the Olol, is not a separate entity, as we've explained the whole time, that the Olol is a separate entity from the Sechel. But actually, it's ha'ora ha'ila. It's a subtle element of the ila. It's a ha'ora, an inference of the ila.
It seems to hint on whether you think that the midah becomes ifnei atzmai, or whether it stays just a reflection
right.
of the
We're not talking about becoming. The midah, while it is in the meichin, but the midah, while it's in the meichin, is it a separate entity, or is it part of the meichin?
Well, there I thought we all agreed that there it was part of and unified with the meichin.
It was unified,
Yes.
but it's a separate mahus.
That's
Not the Metzius Murgeshen. As Metzius, it's not a Murgeshen. But as a Mahus, it is.
not Metzius, but Muhus it is. Seemingly of a different nature than Sechel.
Then Sechel.
But unified within Sechel.
That's right. Midas Shemei.
Not a separate Metzius, you think?
Not a separate Metzius is when it comes to Megillah.
So, just to see if so there are two different opinions here, or the Rebbe's knocked out one already?
It doesn't knock out anything. This is these different opinions. This different is presentations depend a lot on where you're coming from, what you're trying to, what emphasis, what element are you trying to explain.
Okay, so
from one perspective, this is mamash moichin. One perspective, this is midas.
So they're different models, but seemingly both having validity.
Yes.
Okay.
That's nice. Boy from Kozeh has said in this manner it is ha'ora from the this is ha'ora, all is ha'ora from the. Let's go right down into Ois Mem Tes, Mem, rather, so that we know that we going further. So,
Question.
Uh-huh.
In general, when we go through the Mama, you decide to skip the Kitzur. I want
Right.
to know what motivates you.
The Kitzur is in brief what we learn. And the way we learn, the Kitzur becomes a whole anichas. The Kitzur becomes expensive. We can learn the Kitzur as much time as we learn the Maimon itself. Because everybody will be saying, okay, what does it mean? We cannot learn the Kitzur as a Kitzur. Because everybody has to be translated and explained. We don't have that kind of a background to just learn the Kitzur.
So who wrote the Kitzur?
The Rebbe.
So why did you write it?
He wrote it for people who can learn the Kitzur without
To
having
remain
to
on this call, press 1.
elaborate on it.
Having to elaborate. Okay.
They can learn it on a Kitzur level, on a subtle level. But if we even have every word has to be translated, it's going to take as long as learning the whole mind. Nothing else.
Okay.
And I just want to start the next page. The other manner in Ilu v'Yol who Be'inyan Ilu v'Yol b'Menachem Guf. It is in the element of Ilu v'Yol b'Menachem Guf within Menachem itself. It's a completely different Ilu v'Yol, which is a different phase, a different aspect of the Menachem, which becomes an Olu from the other Menachem. It's like the Haora, as we're going to see. Okay, this is it for this morning. And have an easy fast. And maybe shall have from the tefillah shall discover them, and that we should come forth purified and strengthened. Called